Hey, 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 you know who it is. This is Cruz of Olympian Multimedia, and we're presenting you with another segment of A Word with the World. And as you notice, we're in studio today with a special guest. This guest that we have today, he's an author and he's a poet. He has definitely made a name for himself in the poetry circuit, showing up at different events, spoken word events, open mic events, really enlightening people to the importance of not only writing, but getting into literature, but also just the love and creating that passion for poetry. And just to give you a quick highlight of some of his books, because he has a plethora of them. Oh, just to let you know, this one is As If in a Distant Dream, collection of poetry. We also have here Charm, Elegance, and Intrigue, which is one of my personal favorites. And then we also have here Under Watchful Eyes. So it's a delight to have him in studio today. So please welcome Mr. Mark Schardine. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Very pleased to be here. And I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak about it.
Hey, I appreciate you coming in studio today. I know you're busy. I know you got a lot of things that you're working on. I believe you're working on a new book.
That is correct.
That is correct. So definitely you got your hands on a lot of different things. So I want to appreciate that you taking the time out to come in the studio and talk about it. It's always great to talk with like-minded people, especially with you and I. We come from the world of literature. We're both published authors. So it's just great to just have this opportunity to discuss writing since we both have a passion for it. Just for you guys out there, for your viewers, just to give you a quick enlightenment on the purpose of this segment is today we're going to be talking with Mark about his writing, his overall artistry, and then we're going to be discussing different excerpts from his books and how he's developed his style writing. This is something you viewers need to tune in because he has a very unique, very, very unique way of writing that maybe for you out there, you may not be so familiar with. So this is going to be great for Mark to go ahead and explain that. So Mark, let's get right into it because let's get to what I call the meat and the potatoes, man. Because I'm so interested on getting your insight because I'm a poet as well, but you write so different. So almost on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to poetry. So you possess a very distinct form of writing that is formed in a unique, complex matter. Writing poetry in the form of a haiku has to be presented in a concise manner. So could you explain to the viewers how you're able to develop this type of poetry and style writing?
Yeah, I think I'd like to mention that again, you might say some kind of event can serve as a catalyst. And it was the workplace, and someone said, let's write haiku poetry, 575. And I thought, yeah, let's go to it. And sometimes I kid around and say everyone else had the good sense to stop. But I just kept at it. It kept interesting me because I used this form of 575. Now, admittedly, haiku is a very vast subject matter. There's all sorts of different ways people approach haiku poetry. There's not just the 575. But I've worked on the natural world, observing nature, and then I thought, can I just have one 575 stanza and maybe several of them, just a whole list of 575 stanzas to describe a scene in the natural world, to look at the beauty of nature, different ways to, and also different seasons of the year, different views. The natural world is beautiful, but also at times dangerous. Things that, and I'll try and, then later, looking at some internet sites with poetry, there's a 57577. That's Japanese form called tanka, Tanka. And Charm, Elegance, and Intrigue is all Tanka poetry. 57577. It's a syllable count. And ended up setting up a challenge for myself. Can I tell a story with just a title and those 5 lines, 31 syllables arranged in that manner? And try to do this every day. Can I write something each day? Not everything's going to work out. Sometimes, okay, I wrote this, and when you're publishing a book, I'm sure you've seen this too. I have like 200 pages of things. Wait a minute. Let's sort it out. Let's go with the best. Mm-hmm. Let's pare it down to 100. And if you're, so I was able to keep at it each day. And then when it came time for Charm, Elegance, and Intrigue, my first book, I had more than enough. And that was, but also continuing experiment 575, 57577, and also different forms as well. So rhyming couplets, as you notice in Under Watchful Eyes, sometimes just everyone expects poets to rhyme. So, okay, let me give you some rhyming poetry. And then looking for different subject matters. And, in poetry, you're never going to be apolitical, non-political, unpolitical. So some of the things As If in a Distant Dream, watching the news, that was really during the Iraq War in the 2000s. What's going on every day? There's some act of violence, and there's reports that we're not really sure. And good meditation on those. How can we? And then you also have to seek different. Sometimes very serious, something very heavy. Mm-hmm. Praying for peace. Mm-hmm. And other times, the pleasures of life. Culinary poetry.
So that's a good point Mark made. I hope your viewers picked up on that. That even though you're going to write in a very specific style when it comes to your poetry, for the poets out there, there's different ways to go about it as far as how you format your poetry. Even though you're picking a distinct style of writing or your approach when it comes to writing your poetry. And with haikus, being that it's a shorter poem, it entails more interpretation, right? So, was this your intention to have the reader add their own experiences?
I really believe so, because they see things, they see from my point of view, but then they add their own point of view. There's implications, and then they see, and people have looked, they present perspectives on my book that I didn't imagine. Sometimes people will talk about it and they'll say, I look at it in this particular way and say, oh, thank you. I didn't see my own work that way. Which sounds strange, but...
No, I think you're right on with that. I've gotten that as well with the books that I publish. They'll bring something to me, give me a layer of perspective that I didn't even see for myself. Obviously, when you're writing, you have a certain purpose or message that you're trying to convey through it. But for somebody to read it and then they gather their own thoughts and own perspectives on it, I think that's incredible. I think that's enlightening. And I think that speaks a lot to the writer, that you're writing it in a way where it can be interpreted like that. So, Mark, poetry, in my opinion, is meant to be insightful and allow the reader to expand their perspectives, as we were just talking about. So, explain to the viewers your method of writing, but how you're able to stay true to yourself and still be meaningful, but allow the reader to, quote unquote, think outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, you want to give them something. You don't want to jolt them out of their comfort zone, but you want to present a new perspective that it could be they view the world through different lenses. Or sometimes they may even think that they're opening their eyes, something new. And they'll also, but in terms of trigger, but I remember someone said about the book Charm, Elegance, and Intrigue, that these relationship problems shown in these poems. I think, of course, we identify ourselves with our relationships. That's how we many of us, our lives are, and it's amazing. Sometimes they can go very, very well, but also completely wrong because of a mistake and misunderstanding. And you could be a good person, and then the relationships just go wrong for you.
Good point. So obviously you would probably agree with this, that what helps when it comes to our writing and developing our processes, in some way, shape, or form, we need to be inspired. So how do you personally overcome moments when inspiration is not so much readily available?
There's always going to be moments like that. So I'm going to tell viewers, you're going to have times when it doesn't seem to be going well. It can help to edit previous work, look at things that you've written in the past that maybe you can rewrite. Try to write something each day, and then know that you can always edit it. Write more than you think you'll need. That way you'll have an easier time reducing. Yeah, I had 2 pages of things. I only needed a half a page. But I needed to write 2 pages to get
to where you wanted to go. Go on.
Also, when it comes to when you have to take care of yourself. When you're in good health, when you can focus, when you have all the mental, emotional, physiological aspects all operating together, then you're doing well.
That's a good point. And I'm glad you brought up the point of you have to continue to write. You know, in order to better yourself at your craft, even if, like you were saying, maybe most of the stuff that you write within a certain period of time you're not going to use, but the fact that you still are engaged, you know, so that you don't lose any kind of lose your process, or just to be in that be in that atmosphere where you want to write.
You can also have sometimes someone said, I went off on some tangent, or I went down a rabbit hole, or I just started writing things totally, and that can really help, because you can find new things that you didn't imagine before, writing different styles, different content, looking at this, and even if it never makes it to a book you publish, the fact that you just went off in a completely different way, even if you ended up going right back to what you were doing before, the fact that you did that was good.
Right. So definitely we recommend for you guys out there, especially if you're just starting out, that don't be discouraged if some of the stuff that you're writing early on doesn't really pan out to like you're going to be able to put that in your book or into your manuscript. Just keep yourself engaged. The more you practice, I mean, that goes without saying, the more better you're going to be.
But also it may take a long time until you feel that you have enough to share with other people. Because at the beginning, you maybe have 50 pages of maybe it's poetry, maybe it's prose, maybe it's short story, maybe it's the beginning of a novel, and you're really not ready to share it with other people. That's fine. But then later, in particular with close friends, you feel more comfortable asking for feedback. That can be very helpful. That you took the time to work through it. You didn't expect instant success.
And also, too, don't be afraid to allow other people to read your work as well. I mean, at the end of the day, we're always going to recommend for an editor, somebody who is in that professional setting, to look over your work. But also at the same time, just allow, like, maybe your friends, relatives, maybe people that you're close to, acquaintances, to just look over your work and kind of get their viewpoint on your body of work and just see how they interpret it, you know? You'd be surprised that you might be able to pick up some things that they say that might be helpful along as you're going about putting together your poetry. So, Mark, I noticed a lot of your poems involve or provide strong imagery which invokes the senses, right? So I noticed, especially in As If in a Distant Dream and Under Watchful Eyes, I noticed there was quite a bit of portions of the book, how it was broken into different sections that was themed on very specific concepts that we find in nature, right? The seasons, the sea, romance, politics. You even have something about the culinary, a little bit about culinary, just to name a few. And in your book, Charm, Elegance, and Intrigue, I really would like to get your your thoughts, excuse me, on two particular ones that I enjoyed greatly. And you can kind of explain to the viewers how you came about it. So on page 67 of the book, you wrote a poem entitled Friday at 10 p.m. So I'm going to quickly read it for the viewers. He works late tonight, having nowhere else to go. Much needs to be done, and he prefers not to see his ex-wife out on the town. So, Mark, can you enlighten the viewers? What's the meaning behind that?
A man is home alone Friday at 10 p.m. He's probably working nothing. And then but then the final line, his ex-wife out on the town. Yeah. And that just really hurts, doesn't it? Just to imagine it. And we think, but part of is there sympathy we have for him? Maybe he totally is. Maybe he was the best husband in the world. Or maybe he made some sort of mistake. But we know with complete accuracy, definitely very, very unhappy. Profound sorrow expressed. And the thought that she's just living it up.
She's just living her life.
And he's looking at some computer screen or writing some office correspondence or calling a client and time when everyone else is sitting in a nightclub or going to a party. And
it's tough. But what I like about it is just something that readers can resonate with. I believe most people went down that road of just being in a relationship and it just doesn't pan out the way you see fit. And then two lives going their separate ways. And you kind of reflect in that when you have that moment by yourself, you get reflective to being like, I wonder what I did wrong. Or even breaking that down even further of knowing what you did wrong and wishing that you could have changed certain things, or at least have the power.
And and that I just imagine that's never happened to me.
Okay.
So when you write, it's much more important to use your imagination than your own experience. If you can imagine something happening to someone else, and maybe you dread the thought that it could happen to you.
Wow, that's an interesting way. Because I know with a lot of my writing, I definitely pull from experience. So certain things that you might read in my poetry or short stories, it actually happened to me in real life, but I present it in a more metaphorical way. I don't actually use names of people that I've engaged in or whatever. But with that being said, you still write it. You still want to write in a way, even from your point of just using the imagination of kind of like the what if, to still make it in a way where people can resonate with it. And I feel like even with that, that's something that people can use.
There's certain elements you can interpret, other elements you know exactly what's going on. Those are often the most effective moments in literature when the reader knows exactly what's happening at that moment.
So on page 68, you wrote another poem entitled Good Carnival Decision. And here, again, for you viewers, I'll read it. He did not escape. She had let him meander, chat with the ladies. Then when he least expected, she appeared and greeted him. Very interesting. So again, Mark, what's the meaning behind it?
Well, Carnival, that's in Venice. We call it Mardi Gras. They call it Carnival. It's that big party right before Lent. And in Venice, it's a masked ball. So you don't know who's who. Okay. Everybody's hiding. There's some clandestine. There you go. But then there's a recognition that even when you think you're safely hidden and can do whatever you want, someone spots you, and then turns up unannounced. It's that either it's metaphorical or it's literal, but the unmasking of the person is a very. Sometimes it's in comedy, it can get the audience laughing uproariously. In a horror movie, obviously,
Yeah.
or in a drama, when suddenly that's what's been going on. But this metaphor, or maybe the literal description of unmasking something and finding out how that person really is. And then the other thought that you thought people didn't notice. Well, they notice all.
It is true. And again, it's something we could all relate to, thinking that you could kind of hide in the shadows, so to speak, and go ahead and do certain things. In this case, it's more like in a relationship setting, but you can even expand that or expound on that just with everyday living, different aspects that we go through, where it's kind of like even in a workplace where you might feel like nobody's looking, or as I thought no one was looking, I can just go ahead and do this, take this shortcut. I really need to get this done. I got to meet a deadline. And then later on, it'll come back and you have to suffer the consequences. So that was great that you were able to put that.
Also, in movies, every once in a while you'll see a movie scene where it's suddenly the mask falls and the audience understands what's been going on. In those moments, obviously, if you're a movie maker, you have to master that art. But obviously, in life and that moment that we thought we knew what was going on, how wrong we were.
That's when that moment comes up. Dun dun dun. There you go. So, Mark, what are you looking for the reader to understand about yourself when it comes to your poetry?
A couple things. You had mentioned that your writing is sort of indirectly autobiographical.
Yes.
I really don't want anything autobiographical. I really want. I'd rather that readers think in terms of observing. How do you observe the world? What do you see when you observe it? And how can you share your observations? The idea that the one thing that I've noticed in poetry workshops, people are writing about their own experience, and it's like they're trying to come to terms with their own experience, which can be valuable. But then again, I just don't feel that I write very well when I do that. I feel better about my writing when I look at the world, look at things, see how people relate to each other. Imagination. Let your imagination roam free.
So you base a lot of your writing on the interaction that you have with your environment versus really just talking about your personal experiences. And that's great. Again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, guys. There's range when it comes to your writing. Don't ever feel like because in this case we're talking about poetry, you have to write it in a certain type of way, certain type of format. It always has to come from a personal place. It always has to rhyme all the time. You know, the spectrum is large there, and the range is there to allow you to really express yourself when it comes to your poetry.
I owe that gratitude to movies such as Alfred Hitchcock, who really mastered that art of revealing that moment and suddenly you understand what's going on. So a lot of novelists, think of Dominic Dunn, his novels, and also James Stanton Hitchcock, the wealthy people who seem to have their world in very good order. But when you look behind the scenes, you can find a lot of inspiration. You may find inspiration in poetry, in terms of novels. You may find inspiration in novels. You may be able to distill your words into a short poem.
Very good point. Very good point. I hope you guys taking in, jotting some notes down, as it were. Mark, I appreciate you bringing up those points. Mark, I discussed it earlier, right at the onset of this segment, that you have such a strong presence when it comes to the poetry event circuit, always making yourself available. and performing, doing spoken word with your readings. So I'm really curious to know from you, what is more difficult, reading out loud your work or developing your poems?
I think if you don't feel comfortable with what you've developed, if you don't feel confident that you've written well, you're going to have a tough time at an open mic because your nervousness will show. In fairness to open mic events, one of the reasons I would encourage you to go to an open mic, you may not read any of your own work, but in terms of speaking ability, developing the understanding of literature, reading someone else's work in an open mic can be very valuable. And in an open mic, you should also consider, let's have everybody read something from everybody else. So that's the way to look at it. But yeah, like I said, if you feel confident in your work, then you're confident, you're receiving good feedback, and you go to an open mic and you feel comfortable in your friends, and you read and it goes off well. That's a big confidence boost, and we need those.
Yes.
I mean, no one just walks onto the stage first time and performs brilliant. And the open mic events, a lot of fun. There's a lot of good people. You can learn a lot about how to present your work. You can learn a lot of different themes, different ways people view the world. Definitely recommend open mic events.
And poetry is just a great genre, not only to get into if you want to do like your writing and developing your writing, but the atmosphere of interacting with the other poets who have an appreciation for poetry is very invigorating. And to your point, it allows you to, in a subtle way, better equip you toward progressing with your poetry and expanding what you want to do with that.
And of course, with the open mic, anytime you're on the line, because an aspect of an open mic poetry, I'm sure you've seen this, you're going to have stage fright. But when you know that all the good actors and actresses have stage fright, that's normal. And you gauge the audience's response, and you have a lot to offer. And when you think of yourself as having a lot to offer, changes your perspective.
Good point. And also too, this is what I try to encourage people too, as I go around doing different book events and going to these different types of spoken word events and so forth. You're a published author. So clearly you don't have a problem sharing your passion and your artistry with other people. This is just another way to do it. I know it's a little bit rough because now you're right in front of an audience. It's kind of like you're looking at their facial expressions. You're all having these thoughts in your head. I don't know if they like what I'm saying, let alone understand what I'm saying. But the fact that you have another avenue to showcase your artistry, you should take full advantage of it. And the community is great. I mean, they're definitely going to talk with you. They're going to be engaged with you. They're going to critique you. But in my personal experiences, I don't know, probably with yours as well, Mark, you get great feedback. It's not to the point where it's like they're really being malice with their critiquing. It's just they give you what the pros, the cons, what they like, what they don't like. But it's all in a matter of building each other up. And I think that's what's great about it.
Yeah, that's true. And you also learning from how other people present their work.
Yeah.
You can. I would have never thought of that. Yeah, it certainly got. So, for instance, I rarely repeat words in a poem, in part because they're short. But some people, when they present a poem in an open mic, they'll use a lot of repetition. What they'll do is each time they repeat it, they pronounce it differently with their voice, and that gives a word a different meaning. Which takes a fair amount of acting skill, speaking skill, to be able to repeat a sentence, and then later you hear it again. Wait a minute, that has a different meaning based on the way the person said it.
Yeah, very good point. So we're at the tail end of this interview, Mark, and I appreciate all the enlightenment that you've provided. for the viewers out there. So, addressing the viewers, what advice would you give to those who are looking to make their dreams a way of life?
Well, first, and of course, it's a lot of it's the mastery and the discipline required of writing, and that takes time and effort. But think of yourself as having a lot to offer. Develop your skills. It took you well. Maybe you started with prose, went to poetry, started with poetry, went to prose, long work, short work. But you have a lot to offer, and people will take an interest in your perspectives. And then later on, it will happen that it's not so much that you're worried about there's so much the mastery of the discipline, but it starts to become natural. You let it happen. You develop the skill set where your words come to you, you fashion them, you deliver them, you offer them to other people, and you notice that, and you're glad you did. You're glad that you had something to offer. You showed a generosity which people will appreciate.
And I appreciate, Mark, too, that it's pretty much a theme that you've been kind of conveying throughout this entire segment. You guys have something to offer. Don't ever feel like you don't. Don't ever feel like when it comes to your writing that you feel like there's not a single person out there that can really relate or resonate with your writing. Because trust me, there's an audience out there. You just have to find that audience. You got to put yourself in that position so that you find the right audience and find the right people that will really appreciate your work. But never feel, to Mark's credit, what he said regarding you have nothing to offer. I feel like we all have something, a talent, an ability. We have something that other people can appreciate. And if we can kind of band together and work together, we're all going to be better because of it.
Some writers, they were teenagers and they hit it big. Other people, and we see this in the history of literature, some other writers had a lot of gray hair before they gained recognition. And it took them a long time. But when we look back and say, yeah, it worked out very well. Persistence, effort, insight, listening to criticism, not letting things discourage us. And like I said, you have a lot to offer. It'll take a lot of time, effort, skill, thought, reflection to learn how best to offer it. But you will see a lot of appreciation on the part of people who come to know you and come to know your work.
Great words of encouragement, Mark. So, Mark, to end it off, what's new on the horizon?
In the immediate future, there's Volume 2 of Charm, Elegance, Intrigue. I've already spoken with Rebecca Bonham of Blue Shade Press.
Shout out to Rebecca.
Yeah, shout out to Rebecca. She has been very, very helpful, very valuable. Well, I should also have a shout out to the open mic people, such as Todd Evans, certainly, and Vonda Thomas certainly deserve.
And another shout out to the Village on High. Yeah, they're definitely supportive of poets.
So the person is Charm, Elegance, Intrigue. That would be Volume 2. And because I write every day, I think at this point, after Volume 2 of Charm, Elegance, Intrigue, I'm going to have to think of, just have to go in a different direction, put poems together, maybe some long, short, maybe revisit some old themes, seek some new themes, and see what I find and see what presents itself.
Definitely. And again, just to showcase for you guys the books, Mark, could you explain to the viewers or enlighten them where they can find your books?
Yeah, these are at Amazon.com. Again, my name is Schardine. It's a rare name, so you'll have a fairly easy time finding my name. You will find these books there. Charm, Elegance, Intrigue that's about human relationships. As If in a Distant Dream and Under Watchful Eyes, a variety of themes, and Under Watchful Eyes, a variety of styles. I believe you can also order my books through Blue Jay. I believe you can go to bluejaypress.com. Yes. But in fact, I prefer you to look first to bluejaypress.com to purchase my books. And I really...
And you said they were available as well on Amazon.
Amazon.com, yeah. So you can go there.
So definitely check out in the comment section. The links will be down below for you guys to check it out.
Also, you can just the last shout out Classics Bookstore in Trenton.
Okay.
My books.
Okay.
Certainly owe a debt of gratitude.
Shout out to Eric.
Eric Maywar, we certainly owe you a debt of gratitude.
So definitely, if you're in the Trenton area, check out Classic Bookstores. You can receive a copy of Mark's books, but also too on Amazon.com, but also as well BlueJayPress.com. Again, look for the links in the comments below. Check it out. Do yourself a favor. It's starting to get cold out here. It's already getting cold out here. We're in the winter season. This is the best time to cuddle up inside a warm home, get cozy, and
open up a poetry book.
And open up a poetry book and let your horizons just expand and run wild, right? So, Mark, I definitely appreciate you being on the show today.
My pleasure.
It was definitely a delight and an honor for you to be here. This is a guy that's definitely made himself known out here in the poetry events, doing different readings and whatnot. So we're definitely going to keep you guys enlightened when Mark is performing, so that you could come out and check him out and gravitate and take it all in when it comes to his reading. So again, Mark, we appreciate you being on the show. Again, you know who this is. This is Zeus Cruz of Olympia Multimedia, presenting you with another segment of A Word with the World. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. All right.